Hi everyone, I'm Karrie Evenson and welcome to Karrie on Canvas. Have you ever created a piece and it just looks flat? Or perhaps you wanted a piece to have more interest to it? I tell you what, I'm so excited about the show tonight. I have something very exciting planned that I am sure you're going to enjoy. We're going to just think outside the box and think about what we can do to add interest to a piece that not only engages the viewer's sense of sight, but touch as well. So grab your supplies, hang out with me, and let's get started. Here's what you're going to need. Gel medium for texturing, medium-sized canvas, a palette knife, odds and ends to create the texture with, assorted acrylic paint, paper towels or rags, and don't forget water to keep your brushes clean. So, I have here a canvas that I've kind of already prepped for you guys to kind of show you exactly what we're going to do with texture. Now, texture, when I say we're adding texture, what that means is we're adding anything that's going to have a little bit of extra movement and feel to it on the canvas. It can be gel medium, it could be even a mixture of glue and water really thick that you can kind of glaze over. Think of it for those that are crafters, similar to decoupage. So I went ahead and I have some texture gel here that I went ahead and tinted yellow so you could see when I apply it to a white canvas exactly what we're going to be doing. So on this canvas here, I took, I took yellow texture, and then I added some little things just to kind of add some interest. Now, I won't leave it like this, of course, because eventually what we'll do is we'll paint over it. So we have just a little bit of cutouts that I made here. I have some tissue, and this is just simple tissue paper that you can get from your regular store. It's like gift wrap tissue paper. And then you have regular paper here that's painted, and then some little mosaic rocks that I have. And I even have a little bit of mesh netting. You can use cheesecloth or anything like that. And then what you do is you just paint over it and you create a wonderful piece. And probably what we'll do is make a landscape piece with this. So I'm gonna put this aside and show you how I got to this point, and then we will come back to it and add the paint and show you what to do. So the first thing is very simple. Take your palette knife, yellow, I've got my yellow tinted gel medium. Now you don't have to tint yours, of course, if you want to, that works great. And what I'm going to do is just spread it over the canvas with my palette knife. Now, depending on what kind of painting you're making will depend on exactly how thick you want your texture to be. I tend to just kind of spread it evenly all over and then I'll add as I go. So this texture actually acts as a glue, a very, very thick glue, like a paste. And I use, I think I use Liquitex gel medium, but anything that's an acrylic medium will work. And you want to look for like a heavy gel, something that's really thick. You can have a choice between gloss or matte. I like to use matte. So we're just adding this around like this. And then we'll come back and we'll start adding little things to our canvas. We can add, depending on what you want to make, you know, and I always tend to say landscape pieces because they're a little bit easier with the texture when you're doing a show. So you at home can do whatever you want with it. So I'm just going to add. So it just lays just like that. And I will show you what to do to keep it on, to keep it to stay. And if it keeps moving around, you just need to add a little more texture to it. So like this one keeps moving. So we're just going to stick it on like that. Okay. So then what we'll do is once we have this where we want it, we'll take some of the texture and we're just going to go over the twine or yarn. You can use yarn, you can use string. You know, you don't even have to do yarn or twine or anything. You can add pretty much, I mean, you don't have any limits. You can use anything you want. I've used buttons, rocks, I've used seashells. So feel free to use whatever you want. Now, I have this little netting stuff here, which I think is like a gauze pad. I think I ran out of cheesecloth. So I'm just going to stick that on there. And there's no particular place or reason I'm putting it right here. It's just to, just because I want to. So that's how I roll. That's how I work. So we're going to add some texture gel on top to keep it in. I know it's kind of hard to see, but once we get to the painting part, you'll be able to tell a little bit more. And maybe we'll just add some texture here. Now, when you apply this, I mentioned earlier that you can use Elmer's glue and water. So for those of you that are new to painting and texture and all these, you know, little things like this, if you're just used to just acrylic painting or watercolor, I would just recommend trying the Elmer's glue and water first, because otherwise you're investing in a little bit more money unless you don't mind spending that. So how you would make the Elmer's glue is you would just make a thick paste with it. Take the Elmer's glue, add a little bit of water, and you're going to do the same technique that I'm doing here. So we have some tissue paper. And for those of you that are familiar with my work, you've seen a lot of this kind of stuff when I have added texture to my pieces. This is actually how it looks before I apply paint to it. So this is just tissue paper, like gift wrap paper. And you don't have to, you know, you can use any color you want. And what I'm doing now is just applying the texture over it. So we're going to let this will actually have to dry for about 24 hours to really cure and harden up, because we don't want to start working on it before it's dry and then we have a big mess. So these are just little mosaic stones. You can use buttons. I was out of buttons, so I'm just using this. And these will actually stick out through the paint because I really won't glaze over them. So those will dry. And the cool thing about adding like little pieces like tissue that are already colored like this is that when you apply the paint, it's going to have a different color showing through, and it'll kind of stick out a bit, which is pretty cool. It was funny because when I got here today, some of the guys that work on my show asked me what the tissue was in my landscape piece. And they said, what is that? So already my job was done right there because I already drew interest to the piece by just putting it on there. It made somebody ask the question what it was or why I did it. So this is so simple. I mean, and when I say you can pick out anything from your house to use as, you know, adding texture, I'm not kidding. This is literally just a cardboard box, the inside of it when you tear it open with the ridges. I love, love, love adding this to my texture pieces, and I just basically stamp it in. So I hold the cardboard down and then I pull it up, and it leaves these little lines. You just press and then pull up. And the thicker you add the texture, the more of an imprint you'll have. And you know, you can use the comb to do the same thing. I actually didn't bring it with me, but I do have a little comb that I use for the texture, and you can just scrape the comb along the canvas, and it'll actually, I mean, it's really cool because you can do swirls with it and make all kinds of designs. So this is just bubble wrap. Really simple, people. I mean, bubble wrap, tissue, twine, yarn, buttons. We're not talking about spending a whole lot here. We just have some simple things that I have around the house. So think outside the box for sure. Bubble wrap is really cool just to add some texture. I put this on my work a lot. So you just turn the bubble side down, press lightly. You don't want to press too hard, because if you press too hard, then you're going to smudge it and you're not going to really have any bubbles. Add some more texture on this piece over here. And let's see, maybe we'll just add it right here. So I'm kind of planning out in my head a landscape piece with this, like I did with the other one, of course. Kind of laid it out the same. And so when I'm putting the bubble wrap down on the bottom, I'm going to use that as a base for the landscape. And that is fairly simple. Now, if you want to add a lot more, you can. You can do pretty much anything you want. I just like to add lots of things that people want to touch and feel, because the texture, when it dries really hard, and it makes people really think, gosh, what is that? I want to touch that. So this is actually very safe to touch. It's not going to be ruined by anyone touching it or anything like that. So that's how we do the texture on this. Now let me show you what it looks like when we paint. We're going to set this aside to dry, and we're just going to, this probably will not end up being a finished piece, but what we will do is at least give you an idea and show you what texture can do when you add it. So let's get started. I have a big brush here, and since I already have this yellow color in the background, I'm going to go ahead and go with yellow as my sky. Always a warmer color. So I have yellow, orange, azo, and cadmium yellow. And those are going to be my base colors. And then I also, of course, have quinacridone gold, which I know some of you just absolutely love this color because you email me about it all the time. But quinacridone gold is by Golden Acrylics, and it is by far one of my favorites to use. So we're going to move around the painting here, but you can kind of see how the texture works. I even have, this is an old canvas, so basically even before I added this texture on, it already had a little bit of texture to it, because it I had special art tape on it, and I used gesso, and it made the texture. So I mean, there's lots of different things you can really try. And the thing is, guys, don't get so upset about not knowing what to do or you're going to mess it up. Just do it, because it's not a big deal. It's just paint. It's just gel texture. I mean, you can't really mess it up. There's no really wrong way to do it. So just have fun and be loose and free with it. All right, so we're gonna take this violet, and I'm going to start here at the bottom, and we're gonna go with some blue. So as you add the texture, you can see how it, when you're filling the paint in, there's even little crevices and little divots in your painting that kind of leave that yellow color in between and kind of peeking through, and that's okay, that's good. That just gives it more interest. And another thing that I have a lot of comments on that you guys email me about is you ask how my paints and colors are so vivid and bright. I use a lot of paint. I use a lot. This is not watercolors. This is acrylic. This is loose and free painting. This isn't small brush, tiny little bits of paint. This is crazy painting. This is just going with it. So in order to do that, you guys, you have to dig in with your paint. You can't use it just sparingly. Add a little bit of white here. So you kind of get an idea. Now, we're going to add another color, but I'm going to move to a bigger brush because that brush is not covering enough at all. Let's see, let's go to, let's try, Let's go with quinacridone. So this is actually, I say quinacridone, this is quinacridone magenta. And it's another color that I use quite a bit. So we're just creating some hillsides here. It's very simple. Really, it's about color, you guys. It's about color and adding interest to your piece. We're not going for realism. You know, this is something that is supposed to be exciting and loose and free for you. This is more of a way to express yourself with your imagination versus using a picture or some, you know, plein air where you're just, you know, looking outside at a landscape. I'm gonna add some white, which creates some light. But you can already see how the texture plays a part in it. It creates its own shadows and its own kind of hidden interest just without me really doing a whole lot. Now, we have this yellow. I'm gonna come back in with some more of it and a little bit more white. And then what I'll do is I'll take the yellow. I'm just gonna kind of add it along the center of the land. Okay, now, get some more paper towels here. It's a lot better to use a rag if you can than paper towels because they get so soggy, but I forgot mine. All right, now let's see. I think I'll go back to my, this is actually a small brush for me, isn't that funny? I'm gonna go back to my small brush and add in, let's just see what this color looks like. We're gonna go a little teal. You know I like the teal. Love it, love it. So, got that going. Now we'll come back and add a little bit more yellow in the background. We're gonna blend it. Now I'm covering up my house, my little house that I made with my cutouts of an old calendar I had. And I will show you what to do. Because this texture that we add has a sort of a plastic feel to it, you can actually take your paper towel, if it's a little damp, and you can wipe out your little areas. You can even use, and I don't know if I've told you guys this before, but rubbing alcohol will actually, and a little bit of water will actually remove some of the paint when you make collage pieces. So it's always good. You can always kind of rub something out, make it look a little more worn. All right, so we have that. Or you can use your finger, whatever. So, you know what color I'm not using, which I've noticed, and I usually never go without this color, is my red. See if we can find a place for it. Yeah. Because you know, red and teal are just two of my signature colors that I use. Absolutely love them. That's just enough. Kind of add that wow color in there. Now, very quickly, I'm going to try and attempt to put some trees in there. So I'm going to start off with a blue, a darker blue, and I'm going to come in here and add some shadow. Yeah, too small of a brushes isn't working for me. Let's move past that. Let's go to this one. If you're gonna make a mark, make it count. Because little brushes don't do it. All right. So this is basically my bottom part of my trees, and let's come in with a little, let's add some more red just to kind of set off that teal. Now someone asked me once, you know, how do I not muddy up my colors? Well, I do muddy up my colors. You just don't always see it because I just worked on the show for a half hour. But when that does happen, and the reason it does is because you're mixing complementary colors together too much, and you're just reworking and reworking in the same area. So take your wet paper towel and wipe it out and start over. It's really simple. Okay, so we have a little bit of the red, we have a little bit of the blue. Let's add a little bit of, this bright green. I don't even know what color this is. It's not really a teal. It's kind of a teal, I guess. So the paint's a little wet to add too much light to the trees. So we're just gonna kind of, I don't even know if we'll have time to let that dry, but what we will do is we'll work on the stems. Or not stems, not flowers, I mean trunks. So we're gonna start with black, and we're just adding the trunks down. Paint's a little wet, so we're gonna get a little more on here. Now we have somewhat of the trees going on. We need to add a little bit of light in between them. Just like that. And another thing to make it really pop is don't be afraid to use the color white. You know, I use it a lot. Look at my paintings and see where the colors that stand out the most. It's going to be where the white is. It adds some contrast. And it's a little bit harder when your paint's still wet, but you get the idea. Okay, now I'm going to add some quinacridone gold to my house here. Add a little bit of shadow. And let's see here. Let's try this. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and try to add a little bit more light on the trees. So like I said, paint's really wet. Just if you have more time at home when you're watching this, you can kind of, if you're recording it, pause it, let it dry a little bit, come back to it. And let's see, I'm going to add this bright lemon yellow. And we're just going to kind of now the other thing is to add some light to the trunks. So we just take a little bit of white, and we don't go down the whole trunk, we just do enough to let people know it's there. Sometimes putting in every detail takes away from the painting. So some things just aren't necessary. And I'm going to take a little bit of the teal that I used earlier. Scratch in. So now you can kind of see a little bit of the texture I have here. It's really maybe hard to see on camera, but what I can tell you is when it dries, it's going to add a lot of interest and drawing a lot of attention. I'm going to try one more thing with this house here because it's just not standing out enough for me. So I'm just adding more shadow. Using my fingers to blend. All right. Now, of course, just adding a little bit more texture. Now, since I have this blue and this violet kind of going throughout the painting, it'll be really good to add some yellow, maybe a yellow orange. So we're going to mix a little bit of cadmium yellow, a little bit of naphthol crimson to make a nice yellow orange. And then we're just going to lightly add some strokes. We can even add some more up here. So, okay, we have just a little bit of around a minute left, so I'm going to see maybe about adding some white to the sunset a little bit more. Just like that. And then take this bright yellow that I had again, add it in. And of course, quinacridone gold, cannot go wrong with. Probably one of the most beautiful colors. I think it's such a great color because maybe most of us really love fall, and it just is a beautiful, warm fall color. So, it gives you an idea of what to do with the texture, and I hope that you've enjoyed playing around and, you know, enjoying the fact that we created something pretty cool. So it's always a great way to really step outside your comfort zone and, you know, do something a little more fun, hands-on, and add a bit of interest to our creative process. You know, life can get a bit boring at times when we get stuck in our routines and we forget how to enjoy the things we once used to. So I say, stop being bored and have some fun with life. Create, inspire, and above all, you must paint. If you have any questions or comments, you know I would love to hear from you. So feel free to email me at soverykarrie@cox.net, or you can go to my website at www.karrievensonart.com. Please join me again on Monday and Saturday evenings at 7:30 right here on Jones Television, Channel 22, or visit us at jonestv.org. Until then, I'm Karrie Evenson, and you've been watching Karrie on Canvas.